Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode 2 of Upon Further Review with B-Marsh. Michael, glad to have you with us here on CBS in Denver and wherever you get your podcasts alongside my co-host, Brandon Marshall. I am Michael Spencer. We have a ton to get to today on the program, including a career day for a couple of Broncos. We're also handing out some grades, including an F. We will tell you who failed the test in week 2, and winning cures all. However, after 2 victories, there are a few things that are concerning us as the Broncos get set to host the Jets in week 3. But we start today's edition, as we always do, with what's on B-Marsh's mind. B-Marsh, I turn the floor over to you.
Man, so I was looking at Patrick Surtain yesterday, and by the way, I thought he did a good job in his first start, but, it kind of made me think about all the DBs we have, and I actually posed this question on Twitter, and, when we play the teams that have, multiple receivers and a great tight end, right? Like the Chiefs and the Raiders have Waller. We can't play man all the time, but when we do play man, do we put Surtain in the box and take away, the quarterback security blanket? And those guys are real threats. Travis Kelce and Darren Waller are probably the top 2 tight ends in the league. Mm-hmm. And they can move, and they're mismatches for any linebackers and pretty much a safety as well. So, it kind of made me think about what Aqib Talib said about when Bill Belichick called him and then wanted him to come to New England, right? He wanted him to come to New England and cover tight ends. And that was his job, or that would have been his job solely. And, and Bill Belichick is the mastermind, right? So I think there's some thought to that.
I absolutely think that's what you could see moving forward once we get into division games, once the Broncos get there and they're seeing the Raiders and seeing the Chiefs. And Von Miller kind of alluded to that in training camp too, right? Like that Pat Surtain was going to be the guy who was supposed to strap the tight ends and come in and kind of shut those down. Now, that's a lot to ask of a rookie, right? But I almost think that this Ronald Darby injury and Pat Surtain being forced to play early in this season can maybe be beneficial for him moving forward. Now, I think the Broncos are going to be better with Ronald Darby on the field. But once they get into division games, once they see high-powered tight ends, maybe that's a good thing that Pat Surtain is going to have his feet wet. He's already got his first career interception. That came yesterday in that game over Jacksonville. Maybe this is a positive moving forward, trying to find some sort of silver lining here in the Ronald Darby injury.
Yeah, I think it's positive because, he becomes battle tested, right? So you don't have to worry about we're throwing him in on a Sunday night game against the Chiefs. Nah, he's battle tested. He's out there, he's comfortable, he's making plays. But he has a pedigree. He has a pedigree, and you could definitely see that he has a bright future.
What did you like about his game yesterday? Obviously had the pass interference penalty that was like for 36 yards. I don't know what he's supposed to do there. B-Marsh, and you heard Jay Feely say it on the broadcast. He's like, the best play in football sometimes is the underthrown ball because Pat Surtain's playing coverage. The ball's hitting him in the back, and yet he's getting the PI. But I thought he responded really well to that. And you look at Pat Surtain like, okay, a rookie, obviously he's going to take some lumps. Had the mishap in the Giants game where he ends up giving the touchdown to Sterling Shepard there, but then bounces back. And the interception that he made the other day was absolutely incredible too.
Yeah. What I like about him, I just like his, his feet, right? He has great feet, but at the same time, I feel like his mindset, I feel like it kind of like shines through him. The type of kid he is, the type of competitor he is. He looks like a competitor, right? He looks like a guy who gets it. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't look like, the moment's too big for him. And granted, it was just the Jaguars, but at the end of the day, it's still an NFL team, right? So yes, we could talk about his footwork and his length and, his technique all day, but, he looked like a competitor. And I think that's the most important thing.
And it's a cool story with him and his dad both getting their interception in game 2 of their NFL career, their first career interception. Talk about that pedigree, right? Yes, he does have really good pedigree. Obviously went to Alabama, and you can tell in his media sessions that he went to Alabama as well too. He is short and succinct and to the point, but obviously a very thoughtful guy and a really good football player. Brandon, you said something there that was interesting to me. You said, yes, it's just the Jaguars. Okay. So let me pose this question.
Okay.
Was yesterday's game more about the Broncos defense or more about the Jaguars offense, if you know what I mean, because I'm sitting here and it's hard to say this, but like, okay, they held them to 189 yards, right? Fewer than 200 yards of total offense, 2 interceptions, but it is the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I'm not sure that we are seeing this Broncos defense click on all cylinders just yet.
Man, it was definitely all about the Jaguars.
I thought you were going to go the other way.
You know, but if we want to talk about it, right, it still is the NFL.
Yes.
Still is the NFL. So we have to give props where props is due because, you know, these guys are getting paid. These guys are professionals, right? I mean, yes, they had a terrible team the terrible game last week as far as the Jaguars go, but it's still the NFL, right? So, I mean, you know, I can't necessarily take away from it because as the player, right? If I put myself back into the player mindset, you know, take my media cap off and put my helmet back on, right? If somebody said, oh, well, y'all just playing the Jaguars, I'll be mad. I'm like, no, what do you mean? You know what I'm saying? This is still the league, right? So I think we got to give them their props, man. I know it's kind of straight away, but let me get back on course and say, we got to give Broncos defense their props because at the end of the day, you know, we're all professionals.
Hey, there's a reason you keep your helmet right over your left shoulder, right? I mean, come on now. But I am a little bit concerned about this Broncos defense, B-Marsh, because it's kind of the same things that we've talked about for the last couple of years. They start games slow. Jacksonville has a really nice drive. Trevor Lawrence, 2 of the biggest plays for Jacksonville came on that first drive on the 25-yard touchdown and the 24-yard pickup on third down ended up being their second biggest play. Now, the Broncos go and they fix those things, but I worry that they are going to get themselves in a spot where they're not able to overcome that. And again, it's hard for me to sit here and say, hey, look, they only gave up 200 yards and they forced 2 interceptions. I'm still a little bit concerned about this secondary, considering it's supposed to be one of the premier secondaries in the league and where the Broncos have spent all their money. And Trevor Lawrence comes out and dices them up in the first drive. If he's a better quarterback, not saying that he's not going to be in the future, but when you're facing a veteran, he's going to do that. And then he might do it to you on the second and third drive as well.
You know, I like you, Mike, because, you know, your standards are very high. And like you've been spoiled with really good defenses, right?
Yes.
So you've seen what it looks like. So then when you watch it, you're like, that's not right. That's not necessarily promising. You know, we just have to see. We just have to see. You know what I mean? Because like you said, you know, it is Trevor Lawrence and you know, they got some weapons out there, right? They got Laviska, they got Marvin Jones, they got DJ Chark. So I mean, you know, those are some pretty good receivers, but it's not Mahomes. It's not.
Yeah, right. It's not Mahomes. It's not Lamar Jackson. It's not Derek Carr. That's what concerns me.
Yeah, right. Because, and you're speaking from a point of, we're trying to win a championship. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, oh, we just want to win the division or we want to make the playoffs. We should make the playoffs. No. I like that, Mike.
Because that's how players think, right? Players don't think, okay, cool, we won 2 games. Now what happens the rest of the season doesn't matter. Players want to win a championship, even if it's an unrealistic expectation, because I think anybody would tell you the Broncos are still a couple steps away from that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally think that there are still ways for this team to progress and get better, and some things that are concerning.
Yeah, I mean, there's always ways to get better, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna give them some props because they've held back-to-back weeks. They've held a team of 13 points, right, Mike? So you know, on the goal board, we have a goal board. Typically, every coach I've ever coached, been coached by, whatever, the goal board says if we hold the team to under 17 points, we'll win the game, right? So they've stamped that sticker on the goal board and say, you know, we've held this team to 17 points, under 17 points back-to-back weeks. That's how we can win the ball game.
Yeah. So, back-to-back weeks on the road too, which I think is impressive and is of note. Brandon, how do the injuries of Bradley Chubb and Josie Jewell, and we'll learn more about those as this goes on, but those are concerning to me because Bradley Chubb, one, I think there's going to be the narrative that they rushed him back from injury. If it is indeed that same ankle, which it certainly appears to be, which was reported yesterday. And then Josie Jewell, he may not be the biggest name, but you're talking about the dude who calls the plays for the defense. You're talking about the guy who played in every single snap in week 1 and who was having a really, really good game in week 2 prior to that injury.
Yo, I'm concerned about this linebacker depth. I mean, Justin Strnad, he looked the part as far as movement. I was watching him, backpedal. I mean, he looks good, right? But who else do they have? I mean, we don't know what Baron Browning looks like.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you've been in any practices, maybe, but I don't know what he looks like. And who else do they have, after that? Nobody.
Right.
Right. So, if Alexander Johnson goes down, now it's a real issue.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Now it's a real issue. So I'm concerned about this linebacker depth. And as far as Bradley Chubb goes, I definitely think they rushed him back. The Broncos have an MO for rushing people back. I promise you. They rush players back all the time. So I'm pretty sure they put a little pressure on them. Like, oh, you're fine. You're all right. You know what I'm saying? You should get out there. No, take your time.
And I don't want to read too much into body language, but you could tell by Bradley Chubb's reaction that he was frustrated and that he was upset. And it might be because they rushed him back. It certainly is because he's got another injury now that he's got to deal with. But that's a major, major blow to this team because they've talked about, okay, you get Vaughn and Bradley together and then your secondary can do what it does. And Vaughn looks great through 2 games. I mean, he looks really good. And you don't take away anything from Malik Reed, but you'd rather have that stable of guys with Vaughn and Bradley and then Malik is your third guy, rather than him being your second guy. And I think that's beneficial for this team. That is going to be a huge, huge loss if he can't go for the next couple of weeks. And you hope that that's all it is, right? That it's just the next couple of weeks.
I mean, you hope, right? But it's like, where's his mindset? Because once things happen over one thing after another, it messes with your psyche. So then you out there and he's like, am I ready? You might be timid. Now, it depends on what type of guy he is, how resilient, he is of a man. But I think anybody, if I kept it like Danny Trevathan, right? I remember that year 2014, when I first started playing.
Mm-hmm.
He got hurt right in training camp, broke his leg, then came back, then got hurt again, then came back, then got hurt. Like, that's just a string of bad lucks. And that is with a man's psyche, right? So, I mean, I'm hoping that Bradley Chubb is resilient, but I hope he takes his time to get fully healthy because this is for the long haul, right? Yes. He's still playing for a contract at the same time. He's still got to secure his family. I know he's a top 5 pick, so he's paid, but, the bigger payday is ahead.
Yeah, he's trying to get paid again.
Yeah, he got to get right.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think the mental part of that is really interesting too, and how he will react to that because there starts to be that narrative and then he's going to get asked questions. And does that get into his head? He's going to see that stuff. He's going to hear that stuff. Not only does he have to make sure that his body's right, but I think sometimes, and you can probably speak to this better than I can, guys try to do too much, right? Like they try to come back too early, whether it's the team pressure or whether it's their mental pressure. And you don't want that for Bradley Chubb because the Broncos need him to be healthy in the long run. And so I hope that that's not the case.
But I'm going to tell you, like, every player that I know when I was in Denver, whenever we got hurt, we never just did what the training staff told us to do, and we always went outside the facility. We always went outside the facility because there's a lot of good, PTs in Denver. There's a lot of good ones, right? So I swear everybody would like, okay, obviously you got to check the box, do what they say to do, the ice and stem and the ultrasound, whatever. All right, whatever. Then we go down the road and we'll really get right with, with so-and-so.
Yeah. So
I'm not sure what he's doing, but I hope he's, takes the advice of some of the veterans, that's been in Denver that know people that are really good, that can really help you,
That's a really interesting point. And I know, I think this happens all across sports, right? We saw this with Kawhi Leonard and his injuries is part of the reason why he divorced the San Antonio Spurs. I mean, this happens across the board. The trainers, yes, they take –
No, man. Hey, you know what? Mike, this is an interesting topic, but they mean well.
Yes.
I think they mean well, but I think it's just the business of it, right? Because they're in the business of, okay, Michael Spencer's hurt. All right, upstairs they're saying, okay, all right, what's it look like? Okay, how soon can you get him back? Right? How soon? It's not necessarily let's make sure Michael's 100%. Let's make sure everything's right by and by. Mm-hmm. No, wait, how fast can we get him back? You know what I'm saying? And so, I even got a story about my friend, Omar, right? Omar Bowden.
Yeah,
He told me one of the training staff, when he had hurt his PCL, the year won the Super Bowl, and he still wasn't feeling right. And one of the training staff was like, "So, do you just not want to play? Because I mean, you seem like you're fine now." And he's like, "Nah, like I still don't feel right."
Yeah.
And the guy was like, "You're fine," and that's kind of alarming, right? Because it's I get the training staff is worried about, well, how mentally tough is, but if you made it to this point, you're mentally tough.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Come on. But it's like their job is like, I gotta get them back faster. Upstairs is telling me, like, yo, can you get them back faster? You know what I'm saying? So it's really, that's what it's about.
Well, and that makes you look better as a trainer, right? Like if you can get your guy back out on the field quicker, then you're a good trainer. At the end of the day, those dudes are wearing the logo though. You know what I mean? And so their paychecks are coming from the team. Their job is to the team, not necessarily the player. Sometimes at the end of the day, that's what happens.
And check this out. Exactly. So if I go down the street to a spot called Crovetti, whatever, orthopedics, their job is to worry about me.
Yes.
You know
yes.
Oh, I'm paying them, right?
Yeah.
But I just had a thought, and I just lost it. But anyway, you're right though, because it's not about Michael. It's not about me, And then also, this is another aspect of it, right? That I've heard from other players and even myself. You gotta watch out what you say in the training room, how you move, because those things are reported upstairs. Like, they're like, oh, well, he's not this type of guy. He's not this type of guy, and that could affect your perception. So even though you may not like the treatment that they're giving you, or you may not like the things they say to you, or whatever the case may be, or if they're trying to rush you back, you gotta kind of like tread lightly, because they will tell the upstairs, and then now it's a new narrative on you that may or may not be true.
Yep. I love that. That is absolutely fascinating stuff. And I think that's part of the reason why I enjoy doing this with you, getting your take on that. You don't get that from other podcasts, right? You only get that from a former player who has been in that spot. That's part of why we love doing this show. Hey, we got to take a quick break. Coming up next here on Upon Further Review, we're handing out some grades, B-Marsh's report card, plus a career day for one Bronco. We will talk about his return. Whatever the trainers did to him, it apparently worked. That and more coming up next right here on Upon Further Review with B-Marsh and Mike. Welcome back inside Upon Further Review with B-Marsh and Michael. It is time to hand out some grades after a Week 2 victory in Jacksonville. Time for B-Marsh's report card. B-Marsh, who are you giving out grades to today?
Well, first of all, I want to give a grade out to the offensive coordinator, Pat Shurmur.
Okay.
I'm going to give him a grade because finally, right, Broncos fans and defense and myself included can watch a game and not be bored of offenses on the field. We fall asleep when the offense is on the field.
Yes.
The offense looks exciting. It looks a little different, right? It looks like they got some type of sauce to it. You know what I mean? But before it was just bland. It was just boring. I'm like, yo, this offense is terrible. So I'm going to give Pat Shurmur, I'm going to give him a B right now.
Love it. Okay. All right. Room for improvement.
You're not falling asleep when you're watching the Broncos offense.
No, it's finally to not do that, and you guys on defense couldn't fall asleep because you were back out there in 3 plays. You know what I mean? Like it was like that. Maybe get a cat nap, but as soon as you shut your eyes, hey, you got to get back out there. We just turned the ball over or punt already. You know what I mean? So okay, B for Pat Shurmur. I like it. What else you got?
Yeah, Cortland Sutton, man, had career highs. Right?
Yes.
He had career highs yesterday. So and him coming off the ACL and it's funny. I want to say Andrew Mason. I think he took a video of Cortland last week or after the game.
Yeah.
On Wednesday or Thursday, doing individual drills, and he looks like he was hobbling. I sent that to the group chat with some of my fellas, and because we talking about fantasy, I'm like, oh, so one of my boys dropped Cortland. So I'm like, oh, so this is why you dropped Cortland? And then he goes off for almost 400 yards, right? Actually, I'm gonna talk to him about that because like he dropped him because he said he dropped him because Teddy was his quarterback. I'm like, you're crazy.
Oh wow! All right.
But hey, Courtland looked great, man. I'm gonna give him an A just because based off him coming off his injury and him still probably dealing with that mentally, and him go out there and carve up, the Jags defense. That was great.
Yeah. Now the theory behind that video was that it was a foot placement drill and that he was supposed to be.
What I'm talking about. It looked ugly though.
It looked really bad. Yeah. I hope you picked up Courtland Sutton in that fantasy league. But I mean, what an awesome moment for Courtland. And today is the 1-year anniversary of when he tore his ACL. I mean, it happened September 20th of last year, week 2 against the Steelers. So he comes back out and nearly a year to the day puts up 159 yards, has a boatload of catches. I think it was 9 receptions is what he finished with. And you could tell, B-Marsh, like the question was, okay, Jerry Jeudy's out. Who's going to step up? Who's kind of going to be that security blanket? Courtland wasn't a security blanket for Teddy. He was dropping bombs.
Yeah, he was a guy. He was a guy. I mean, he had full confidence in Teddy. My bad. He had full confidence in Courtland.
Yeah.
And I know, some players, probably had some concern about Teddy and throwing the deep ball, right? Throwing the bombs. But hey, man, 2 gloves looked all right to me.
He looked really good. Yeah. I mean, 3 plays of 30 yards or more. Obviously, the 55-yard catch to Courtland. He also had a 30-plus yard reception in there as well. And then there were a couple of bombs that he threw that both of them should have been PI. The one where they're tugging on his jersey, and then the one that almost ended up in an interception. But Teddy was not afraid to let the ball loose yesterday, and I love that because that was the big knock, right? Yeah. And he's just a game manager. He's checked down Teddy, whatever. That narrative has gone out the window through 2 games, and I love that.
He got a little swag to him right now, don't he?
Yeah.
He's not playing like a guy that's thinking if I'm gonna take a shooter, I'm gonna put Drew in. He's playing with his you know what I'm saying? He's got his hair down. He got a little swag to him, and he's confident. I like it.
And what's crazy with Teddy is it feels like the play's never dead. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, not only is he able to step up in the pocket, but then there were times yesterday where he had to scramble. We saw it in the Giants game. He had to scramble a fair amount. He was keeping the plays alive by stiff-arming dudes. Like, he is not just not losing games. He is out there winning ball games. And if you're Broncos country and if you're the Broncos, you got to love that. And I think he's playing above expectation right now.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you look at it, right, Teddy is – so game managers don't throw for over 300 yards, right?
Right.
Typically 250, da-da-da-da. He threw for over 300. So, I mean, that's not really a game manager. He's out there slanging it. You know what I'm saying? He's dropping dimes. I mean, he looks good.
No, and there was the stat that came out yesterday after the game. He's just the 4th quarterback ever to, in back-to-back games, start the season, have 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and complete 75% of his passes, right? And when you're talking about stuff that only 3 other quarterbacks have ever done before in the history of the National Football League, what more do you want?
Come on, man. I mean, Teddy he made the Pro Bowl 1 year, right?
Yeah.
Before he got injured. I mean, he was once a guy that people was talking about, oh, he's a top 10 quarterback in the league. Right now, people have put him at the bottom tier, but I beg to differ.
And I think this goes back to what we were talking about in that last segment, a mentality thing, right? From an injury standpoint, and does he really trust that knee? And I think now he's playing loose, he's playing free. I think he trusts his body. I think he trusts his receivers. I think he trusts his offensive line too. And I think you're starting to see all of that come together. And
he's probably living right.
Yeah, he's definitely living right. He's
probably living right.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to jump in on B-Marsh's report card. I'm going to hand out an F today to the kickoff coverage team and the special teams unit as a whole, really. I mean, outside of Brandon McManus, Sam Martin had some good punts, but the special teams unit as a whole, not only do they give up a kick return for a touchdown, they get an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, which was a questionable call. Yes, all the dude was doing was talking some smack, but it negated a really good punt and gave Jacksonville a free 15 yards. The Broncos were penalized way too much in that game yesterday. I'm slapping an F on Tom McMahon and that special teams unit. I am worried, Brandon. We're talking about things that concern us now that might cost them games later. That's an area that might cost them games later because the narrative is out on the Broncos. It doesn't matter if that ball is 8 yards deep in the end zone. You take it out because you have a chance to bust it.
Take it out. I mean, look, wait till they play a really good special teams unit.
Yes.
Wait till they play a nice special teams unit. It's going to be a field day. If they don't fix that, that's how they'll lose the game.
Yes.
We talk about so much about offense and defense, right? Offense and defense, quarterbacks and DNs and corner, special teams, field position, right? I coached this high school team, and we lost. Part of the reason we lost the game is because we lost the field position battle.
Mm-hmm.
Every time the defense was on the field, right, because the punt was bad, the offense was backed up, the punt was bad. Look, first of all, we got kids running down instead of going to the returner and up looking for the ball, right? And it just blows my mind, right? And then we started on R40. Like, come on, we're gonna lose the game. But my bad, I got off track. But
I was gonna say, woosah.
If they don't get this cleaned up, Mike, it could be ugly, especially against the Chiefs returner and whoever they got. People got really good special teams units.
Yeah, and we've seen that happen before, right? It happened to you guys in 2016. You guys lost some games because of that special teams unit and some muff punts and some issues there. And I think back to Isaiah McKenzie and the troubles that he had and how that cost Broncos football games, despite how their defense and offense was playing. That's a key point and something to keep an eye on as we move forward in this season. We're going to move forward in this podcast. We got to take another break. When we come back, we will look around the league, which teams impressed, which team surprised us in a negative way yesterday, and what to expect when the Jets come to town. Speaking of teams that absolutely were terrible yesterday. We will talk about all that and more next, right here on Upon Further Review with B-Marsh and Mike. Welcome back inside Upon Further Review with B-Marsh and Michael. It is time to go around the league. And B-Marsh, how crazy is this? After 2 weeks, there are only 2 teams in the AFC that are undefeated, one of them being the Denver Broncos, the other being the Las Vegas Raiders. Rare that you would have that. And it's the first time since 2016 that the Kansas City Chiefs are not at least tied atop the AFC West standings. My team that surprised me and impressed me the most, the Baltimore Ravens, who beat the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. I don't know that anybody saw that coming. I love what Baltimore did, especially after a short week. You lose a really, really heartbreaking game in Vegas to the Raiders in overtime on the last play, and then you rebound and beat a really good Chiefs team at home. It was rocking last night in Baltimore. I love the decision to go for it on 4th down. I love the fact that there was belief there. Yeah. I love the fact that there's trust and confidence between coach and player, that they're on the same page. And I think that sent a huge, huge statement to that Baltimore Ravens team and is going to resonate throughout the locker room that they went for it and then got it on a 4th and 1 to beat Kansas City. That was wild last night.
Because a minute is too long for Mahomes, would you say?
Yes. 30 seconds, 25 seconds is too long for Mahomes. You know what I mean?
Somebody's always open. Why is somebody always open in the offense? Somebody's always open.
It's like when you talk about like a cheat code, like it's legit, like he has a cheat code because somebody is always open in their offense.
And it's wild. Or he's throwing somebody open, right?
Yeah.
But I'm going to keep it in the AFC. Well, AFC West, but we talk about the Raiders, right? I
figured you were going here. Beat your chest, B-Marsh. Go ahead.
I said they're the second best team in the AFC West, and they're looking like it right now. They went and they beat a tough Ravens team at home in overtime. They were down 14-0, so they came back, right? Are they battle-tested? Maybe. It looks good. Then they go to Pittsburgh, face a Pittsburgh team that's coming off just beating the Bills at home. In Buffalo, and they beat them pretty sound. Obviously, Ben Roethlisberger came back just a little bit, but I feel like the Raiders always had the game in control. So the fact that this AFC West is tough right now, the Chargers look good. The Chargers look good. Yeah. And so this is going to be the AFC West and the NFC West, I feel like, are the 2 best divisions in football. The Raiders look really good. The Broncos look good. The Chiefs look good. The Chargers. So I can't wait to see how this plays out.
What I love about the Raiders, too, in terms of Broncos country is going to kill me for saying that I love anything about the Raiders. But, like, you watch that Monday night game, and it was just Darren Waller. And I'm like, okay, well, part of the reason I thought Pittsburgh was going to win was because it didn't look like Carr was going to spread the ball around. Yeah. And Pittsburgh's defense is really good. And Vegas is coming off a short week and having to travel and all of these things that were against them. And what Derek Carr proved yesterday was that he can spread the ball around, and that when Darren Waller is open, he is going to hit Darren Waller because he's one of the best tight ends in the entire National Football League. But he also has some other weapons, and I think that showed yesterday. And I was big on Henry Ruggs in week 1, and it felt like, okay, the 61-yard touchdown that they had yesterday, okay, all of a sudden that adds a different dynamic to that Raiders offense. And they did it all without Josh Jacobs, who was inactive.
Right. And I want to shift gears and talk about the defense. I said their biggest acquisition was Gus Bradley.
Yeah.
They couldn't put pressure on anybody for the last 2 years to save their life. They got 13 pressures on Big Ben, got a couple sacks. Gus Bradley has some boys hidden right now on all cylinders. So, it's Broncos Raiders. I want to go see that game.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm ready to go see that.
Come on out.
That's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, no, and I think I gave you a lot of grief when you said that the Raiders were the second best team in the AFC West, and it was funny to watch that blow up on social media. But you go and you beat Baltimore, and then you beat Pittsburgh on the road on a short week.
Hey.
If that doesn't open some eyes, I don't know what does.
Oh, they're battle tested. That opens some eyes for sure.
Hey, let's talk about the team that the Broncos have coming in this week, and the Jets, who are 0-2. They looked absolutely terrible in their loss to the Patriots. Zach Wilson threw 4 interceptions, and some of them, Brandon, weren't even close, right? Like, it wasn't even like the Patriots were making really good plays. There was one where he's overthrowing guys by a couple yards. That one hit Devin McCourty right in the chest. I think that the Broncos are prime for another big game on Sunday in the home opener.
Yeah, Zach Wilson just looks like he's guessing out there. Yeah. He looks like a deer in headlights, right? He don't know what's going on, and Bill Belichick is the master as far as defensive scheme. So he's probably scheming up something, and it looked like something and it really wasn't. So I'm not saying Vic Fangio is the master with scheme, but we have the players. He's a really good schemer as well, but it could be more the same, and the defense could literally win this game by themselves, but this Jets team looks like the same Jets team, and it looks like maybe Sam Darnold wasn't the issue.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, right. Maybe the ghost just exists for whoever puts on the helmet at the Jets quarterback spot, because Sam Darnold goes to Carolina and he's playing really well. And I think there are a lot of issues on that Jets football team, but it starts with the quarterback, and that's obviously the most heightened one, especially when you're the number 2 pick in the draft and you're coming in, you've got all the hype around you. And then Robert Saleh, the head coach, comes out and says he's got to learn that boring is okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? Which is a pretty big statement when you drafted a guy who was kind of known as a playmaker at BYU. But the competition level is a lot different. He's got to learn to live to play another down, I think. And the blame is there because Vic Fangio may not be Bill Belichick, but he can watch tape on what Bill Belichick did and implement that heading into week 3.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Look, this game is, I don't think it's going to be close. At the end of the day, it is an NFL team, but I don't think it's going to be close. The Jets are probably the worst team. The first 3 teams that they played, right? Jags, Giants, they're all terrible, but the Jets is probably the worst team.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a double-digit spread.
But do you take the spread?
What's up?
You take the spread, though. You take Broncos spread.
You're taking it? You're taking the double-digit spread? No, I stay away from double-digit spreads. Just too many weird things that can happen. I'll hammer the Broncos on the money line and parlay that with a couple different other money line picks. But no, I'm not taking a double-digit spread. That scares me way too much. Hey, one thing on the defensive play calling. Vic Fangio kind of has the strategy of a young quarterback, and he said this before. I don't like pressuring a young quarterback because sometimes that makes things easier on him. As a former defensive player, what was your approach to facing a rookie quarterback, especially knowing that he's coming off a 4-interception game?
Yeah, I think, for my defensive coordinators in the past, it was just about disguising coverages, more so than just blitzing them, right? Because if you blitz them, they can throw into the hot or whatever the case may be. But if the safety's rolling down, right, looking like cover 3 before the snap, he snaps them, and then he gets back in his cover 2, he's looking like it's cover 2, and then he drops down in his cover 3 or man. I think that could go a long way because he gets the wrong read, and now he's kind of jittery, kind of antsy. You got Von Miller coming off the edge.
Yeah.
It's ugly.
Well, and part of what plays into Vic Fangio's hands there is that you do have Von Miller coming off the edge. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, they've proven they can get to the quarterback with just 4 or just 5 sometimes. And so you don't necessarily have to bring even with just 3, they've gotten to the quarterback. You don't necessarily have to bring a blitz when you have the guys up front. And that allows you to do some creative things. So I'm really excited to see what Vic Fangio draws up and how he kind of uses the Patriots game plan as the blueprint. Because they didn't bring a bunch of pressure yesterday, you know, and it still worked out. Yeah, exactly.
And Bill knew. He was like, look, we're just going to disguise these coverages. Our corner's going to maybe play off and make him think it's one coverage. He's going to, you know, it's so many things you can do.
Yeah.
So many things you can do to disguise the coverage.
Yeah. So I'm not taking the spread. I am going to take the over on the interceptions prop for Zach Wilson, though, because I'll take that. All right. How's that sound? Hey, that's going to do it for us. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today on Upon Further Review. Episode 2 of the regular season is now in the books. For my co-host, Brandon Marshall, I'm Michael Spencer. Appreciate you guys logging on to CBS in Denver. Reminder, you can get this podcast anywhere you get your podcast. And we are, as always, brought to you by the good folks over at WinBet. Appreciate WinBet hanging out with us and being our sponsor for Upon Further Review with B-Marsh and Michael. Episode 2 in the books. We'll talk to you next week.